Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar. Aguilar.
Excused.
Baumgardner. Cook. Coram. Court. Crowder.
Excused.
Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Garcia. Gardner.
Excused.
Guzman. Hill. Holbert. John. Jones. Kagan. Kafalis. Kerr. Lambert. Lundberg. Marble. Martinez-Humenic. Merrifield. Moreno. Neville. Priola. Scott.
Excused.
Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Tate. Todd. Williams. Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. 31 present, 0 absent, 4 excused. We have a quorum. Senator Finberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the journal, Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the reading of the journal of Thursday, March 15th be dispensed with and the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Committee reports.
March 15, 2018, the Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy has had on consideration had hearing on the following appointments and recommends appointments to place on the consent calendar and confirm members of the State Board of Land Commissioners for terms expiring June 30th, 2021. Gary A. Butterworth, Colorado Springs, Colorado, a person with substantial experience in natural resources conservation is a Republican reappointed. John Michael Shaw of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a citizen at large and as an unaffiliated reappointed. Tyler Patrick Carney of Ordway, Colorado, to serve as a person with substantial experience in production, agriculture, and as a Republican appointed. March 15, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy after consideration of Mayor's Committee following House Bill 1146 be referred favorably to the Committee on Finance. March 15, 2018, Committee on Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Energy after consideration of the Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 188 be referred to Committee of the Whole for recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 15, 2018, Committee on Finance after consideration of the Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 200 be amended as follows as so amended, referred to Committee on Appropriations with a favorable recommendation. March 15, 2018, Committee on Finance after consideration of the Mayor's Committee following House Bill 1017 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations.
Senate Services.
Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 119, 183, 187, 195, correctly re-engrossed, Senate Bill 123 and 177, correctly re-revised, House Bill 1130, correctly enrolled, Senate Bill 138.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over the third reading of bills consent calendar to Monday, March 19th.
Motion is to lay over the third reading of bills consent calendar till Monday, March 19th. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The aye has it, and that will lay over. General orders, second reading of bills. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself and the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
Motion is for the Senate to resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general orders, second reading of bills calendar. Senator Tate will take the chair.
Going to.
Good morning. The committee will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title of House Bill 1191?
House Bill 1191 by Representative Winter and Senators Martinez, Humanic, and Gonzalez concerning a local authority's ability to alter speed limits within the local authority's jurisdiction.
Senator Martinez Humanic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move House Bill 1191. And colleagues, this is concerning a local authority's ability to alter speed limits within the local authority's jurisdiction. Colleagues, this is a piece of legislative policy that addresses pedestrian and child safety on our local roads. Under current law, counties and municipalities may change a speed limit on a local road only if a traffic study is completed and indicates that a change is justified. There are differing opinions by local government legal counsel as to the extent of their decision-making authority regarding the altering of speed limits as set by the General Assembly in CRS section 42-4-1101(2), which states that a county must have performed a traffic investigation study in order to alter speed limits. This provides further clarification in this bill and was brought to us by Colorado Counties Incorporated and Summit County in particular. It concerns the necessary requirements needed to change a speed limit on local roads. Currently, CDOT sets all speed limits in the state, including on county and municipal roads. Local governments are allowed to alter those speeds up or down. However, current statute requires that a traffic investigation speed study must be first conducted to justify the speed change based on certain federal guidelines and criteria. If a speed study is completed and it indicates that a higher speed limit is allowed, say for example in a residential area or near a park or any other area that children and pedestrians are using where there is traffic, there would be no rational basis to lower the speed limit under our existing statute. Additional speed limit determination criteria are needed to allow a Board of County Commissioners the discretion to lower a speed limit based on considerations other than just a speed study, which is the current requirement. Speed studies tend to generally indicate a higher speed limit is appropriate since many citizens tend to drive at or a faster speed than what the posted speed limit is. While larger communities and counties may have the ability to utilize equipment that they have that can calculate speed as well as the number of cars for the volume when conducting a speed study, smaller counties and communities may not have access to the same equipment, and it can be more costly for them if they have to contract a speed study out to a third party. In rural communities and counties, it's not uncommon for citizens to request the lowering of a speed limit on a rural or residential road that has a number of children at play or other pedestrian activity. Often there are no sidewalks on roads or adjoining the nearby parks. Families and individuals often walk their dogs, go jogging or bicycling, and have to do so on the shoulder of the road or street. When speed limits are set too high in a residential area, for example, this becomes an issue, which I think we're all concerned about regarding public safety, and the citizens who live there become frustrated. All of you should have received a photograph on your desk today that illustrates the frustration on your desk that portrays an altered speed limit sign that actually is a speed limit sign that had been altered up in Summit County. And while this is against the law, this was an attempt by the local residents to get drivers to slow down in their neighborhoods in order to make it safer for their children.
Senator Cavallos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. My involvement in this bill is that I see it as a public safety bill. This is a permissive bill. The re-engrossed version says that counties have the option of considering these other factors in determining or adjusting speed limits in their local jurisdictions. In the local government committee, there was a mom with her two sons who came and testified in support of the bill. They came all the way down from Summit County. And for me, listening to the two young people, that was some of the most compelling testimony that I've heard in a while. But essentially, they talked about the importance of being able to cross the street in order to go visit their friends on the other side of the street, or to be able to safely ride their bicycles down the street. And so, colleagues, I respectfully ask for your support of House Bill 1191. Again, it is permissive. It does give some additional tools for local jurisdictions to decide on what are the most appropriate speed limits where they have in their authorities. And I think it's something that will help protect our children.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I don't come here very often, but this one just kind of gets to me a little bit here. There were statements made less than 5 minutes ago about current process of having studies, to have to do a study to make sure this is warranted, whether an increase or a decrease is warranted. And the statement was made that no rational basis may be there to lower a speed limit, which tells me that now we want to do things under emotion. We want to do something because of the whim of a county commissioner or a city councilman without some sort of data to back it up. We already have a process. We can go through that process. We call in CDOT and say, look, we'd really like to lower our speed limit here. Can you tell us if that's probably a good move or not for the safety of the people of Colorado? They make that decision, and then the county commissioners or city can say yes or no. We don't want to follow that advice. We don't want to change that speed limit, or indeed we do want to change that speed limit. This takes that out of the mix. This basically says, county commissioners, city council members, I think that just because I live on this road and my kids play on this road, that we should lower the speed limit for everybody else on that road. Or, since I need to get to town faster, we should raise the speed limit on this road just so I can get there faster without any data. Members, you heard the comment down here at the well that it says that it adds to tools for local governments. It actually takes away that tool. It takes away that tool that CDOT uses to determine whether or not a speed limit should be raised or lowered. I ask you to vote no on this bill, and let's keep science and study and actually a process in place to change speed limits in our local communities.
Thank you, Senator. I think next up is Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would encourage a yes vote on this bill for a couple of different reasons. Some of our cities who have home rule don't have to worry about this, honestly. They already have the ability to conduct their own speed surveys. They're able to conduct their own speed tests and reviews and studies and figure out what's appropriate for their community. And they're able to be responsive to their citizens. They're able to listen to what their citizens want and figure out, do we need to slow down in this particular neighborhood? Would it be permissible to go ahead and bump this up 5 miles or whatever? So home rule cities have that ability. Who doesn't have that ability are statutory cities, because they're under the authority of the state. And all we're trying to do is to give the same amount of parity to those statutory cities that have to conduct a speed study through the state and get special permission, Mother May I permission from the state in order to change, to conduct a speed study. And then if the state determines that they don't like that study or they don't want to move forward with that study, they're out of luck. So at this point, it's just allowing those statutory cities to have the exact same thing that the home rule cities already have so that they can be responsive to what their citizens want without having to go ask Mother May I permission from the state. So I would encourage an aye vote.
Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of this bill as well. And because we have, this just gives the ability for a community to have more broad information brought into their decision-making process than just a speed study. Because what was happening with these speed studies, and I saw this firsthand when I was an educator working in Minturn, is we changed a school from being a middle school to being an elementary and a middle school. So we had a much younger group of students attending the school. And many of them started to ride their bikes to this school. So this was a change of circumstance, a change of use of the roads leading to this school. Well, the problem was is it had a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on the final section. So we requested and made inquiries into what it would take to lower that speed limit. And we were told a speed study. We'll come out, we'll look at the average speeds that are driven, and then we'll make a recommendation of what the new speed limit should be. Well, the problem was is this was a straight stretch of highway on a curvy mountain road, and so this is actually a section of road where most people hit the gas. And so this speed study came back and said, well, actually, we shouldn't lower the speed limit, we should increase it, because the speed study takes not even the average, the 80th percentile, and says that's what the speed limit should be. What most people drive on this road is what we're going to recommend the speed limit. So instead of being able to say, but we have kids on bikes, the response was, no, we're just going to look at how much people, at what rate people drive, and that's what our recommendation would be. So this bill allows communities to say, no, it's a larger discussion than just if people actually obey the speed limit or drive what they should be. We can have different conversations involved in a recommendation of a speed limit, including now we've changed the use of a school. We have young kids riding their bikes, and 45 miles per hour is not an appropriate speed limit. So that's why I asked for an aye vote on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I urge a no vote on this. This is, we could probably rename this bill, Support Your Local Speed Trap. I mean, that's what we're really looking at here. So we have a process in the state of Colorado, and I don't know how many of you are like me that go across multiple jurisdictions, possibly on the same highway and the same road, possibly on a 4-lane road that might, if this bill is passed, allow local jurisdictions to take maybe a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit or a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit and drop it to 20 miles an hour because they'd like to do that. Now, I know some jurisdictions in my area that are always seem to be a problem with my constituents regarding their speed limit laws. If they're on their side streets or their streets, their public streets that are not CDOT controlled, that's up to them. That's up to them. But when these are streets and highways that actually provide transportation and a route for people that are commuting over a period of time, it makes sense that we have some level of consistency. Some level of consistency. We've talked about altering of speed limits. When we go into what this is talking about, and to the good senator from the Western Slope, who stated that the local jurisdictions made changes in a school, and who's going to that school? My question there is, why isn't that local jurisdiction also taking the responsibility to ensure the safety that those changes create? If you're taking a look and you're saying, we're going to change use, this bill says, it's added in here, after considering road characteristics. Okay, CDOT considers road characteristics. Current and future development. Current and future development? So if a developer comes into a city council or into a county commission and says, we want to put all of this development, and frankly, we don't want to pay for the infrastructure of pedestrian bridges or anything else because we don't want to. And the county commissioners go, gee, cool, because we've got more taxes coming in. Then all of a sudden, the people that use these highways to get from point A to point B, and they can't fly over these cities and counties, they actually have to drive through them. Instead, the burden comes on them. You'll move slower, and that's just the way it is because our municipalities or our town councils or our county commissioners have not appropriately identified the problems with growth and gone back to the developers and said, hey, if we want to do this and if we want to change this, we should have a process to control public safety. There is a process currently under state law that allows for that feedback from cities and counties to CDOT. But there is also a responsibility that says this is of statewide importance because these roads transgress through varieties of communities. This basically, as I stated before, is support your local speed trap legislation, and I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Martinez-Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I just want to, again, go over what this says. The bill would require counties and municipalities to also consider the following criteria when adjusting speed limits on local roads. Road characteristics, current and future development, which municipalities and counties already have to take into consideration. And as we know, I can give an example of my own city that I live in. There were no sidewalks in various areas. And yes, the developers have to help pay for those for the public safety when they're building new subdivisions or new commercial areas. Environmental factors, parking practices. The biggest one is pedestrian and bicycle activity and crash statistics. I had a young person in my district in a residential area where there was speeding occurring every day, and the families had put out those, I think they're lime green, looked like a little person with a red hat and a flag, and the speeders ran over them. I had a child that was hit by a car in an area where they were trying to lower the speed. So it's about safety, and it's about allowing further tools for the counties to use, because attorneys have told them the only avenue that you have right now is the speed study. And in rural areas, speed studies can be costly.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After discussion with the sponsor, I move to lay over House Bill 1191 to Tuesday, March 20th.
The motion for the body is to lay over House Bill 1191 to March 20th, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is laid over. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay over the balance of the second reading calendar until Monday, March 19th.
The motion for the body is to lay over the balance of the calendar to Monday, March 19th, 2018. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the balance of the calendar is laid over. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion from the body is to rise and report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
Senator will come back to order. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will hold Biggs lead reports that under consideration the following task bills being second reading thereof makes the following recommendations are on. Senate Bill 196 laid over until 3/19/18 or retaining its place on the calendar. House Bill 1191 laid over until 3/20/18 or retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Tate.
I move for the adoption of the report.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is adoption of the report from the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? With 31 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, the report is adopted. Senate Bill 196 laid over until 3/19 and retaining its place on the calendar. House Bill 1191 laid over until 3/20, retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of government's appointments consent calendar. Mr. Majority Leader. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Carpenter.
Member of the Colorado Limited Game Control Commission for term expiring July 1st, 2021, Timothy David Carlson of Arvada, Colorado, serves as a member from the 7th Congressional District as a representative of law enforcement as a Republican appointed. Members of the State Board of Equalization for terms expiring September 2nd, 2021, Barbara Ann Brewer of Grand Junction, Colorado, serves as a representative of knowledge of property taxation occasioned by the resignation of David Clare Stapleton of Highlands Ranch, Colorado, appointed. Dickie Lee Hullinghorst of Longmont, Colorado, serves as a representative with knowledge of property taxation appointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar consisting of a member of the Colorado Limited Gaming Control Commission and members of the State Board of Equalization.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the governor's appointments on the consent calendar. All those are there any no votes? With 31 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, the appointments are confirmed. Timothy Davis Carlson to Colorado Limited Gaming Control Commission, Barbara Ann Brewer, Dickie Lee Hullinghorst to the State Board of Equalization. Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Bill 1060 and 69. The President has signed Senate Resolution 2.
Delivery to the Governor.
To the Governor for signature on Friday, March 16, 2018 at 8:55 a.m. Senate Bill 1060 and 69.
Message from the governor.
March 15, 2018, to the Honorable Colorado Senate, ladies and gentlemen, and pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and laws of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, and submit to your consideration the following. Member of the Juvenile Parole Board for a term expiring November 15, 2021, Heidi Jean Hess of Clifton, Colorado, to serve as a public member not employed by the State of Colorado on occasion by the resignation of Chantal M. Schonboom of Centennial, Colorado. Appointed, sincerely, John W. Hickenlooper, Governor.
Judiciary.
March 15, 2018, Colorado Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and will file with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 94, concerning the repeal of a duplicate definition section in Article 60 of Title 27 Colorado Revised Statutes, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:13 a.m. Senate Bill 100, concerning disclosure of additional mandatory charges by motor vehicle rental companies, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:14 a.m. Senate Bill 91, concerning modernizing terminology in the Colorado Revised Statutes related to behavioral health, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:14 a.m. Senate Bill 164, concerning the repeal of reporting requirements for certain unfunded programs in the Department of Human Services until such time as funding is received, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:14 a.m. Senate Bill 36, concerning the non-substantive relocation laws related to the regulation of tobacco sales to minors from Title 24 Colorado Revised Statutes to a new Title 44 as part of the organizational recodification of Title 12 and in connection therewith making an appropriation, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:14 a.m. Senate Bill 103, concerning the issuance of performance-based incentives for film production activities in the state, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:15 a.m. Senate Bill 92, concerning updating statutory references to County Department of Social Services, approved March 15, 2018 at 9:15 a.m. Sincerely, John W. Hickenlooper, Governor.
Announcements. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as Chairman of Appropriations, I need to announce or maybe explain that on the calendar for Tuesday morning, we do have an appropriations meeting. However, one of the bills that's listed is not yet out of the House, so it really shouldn't be on the calendar yet. And that's House Bill 1249. But it does give me the opportunity to give you a heads up that we plan on this bill being on the calendar by that time. But the House has a couple of things called second reading, third reading, things like that to deal with. So please be advised that House Bill 1249 is really not on the calendar today, even though it seems to be, but we expect it shall be. Thank you. I hope I've made it crystal clear.
And I wonder who the sponsor of that bill is. Other announcements. Mr. Majority Leader. Senator Kagan.
I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Members, Mr. President, I rise to assert my personal privilege pursuant to Rule 37B to raise questions affecting the rights of the Senate collectively, its safety, dignity, and integrity of its proceedings, the rights, reputation, and conduct of members individually in their senatorial capacity only, and third, public affairs. Members, we as a body must ensure that the Senate provides safety for all who seek to transact business here. And as the rule makes clear, we have the right to raise questions about the dignity and integrity of our proceedings. Acts of sexual harassment by any of our members, if proven by diligent investigation to have more likely than not occurred, are extraordinarily serious matters, because those acts and the prospect of those acts being repeated deeply affect the safety of the Senate. Now, maybe we here assembled, maybe the perpetrators of the acts, and surely this particular senator may not have fully appreciated until recently how deeply acts of sexual harassment affect the sense of safety of people who work here, who long to work here, who yearn to make a contribution to the state of Colorado. Yesterday, however, we heard from one of our members how deeply she is affected despite her love of working here by what might have been misperceived by many of us before her brave recitation of the facts to be trivial acts of harassment, yet she was deeply affected, and the acts made this, in many ways, a hostile environment in which to do the work she loves. The day before yesterday, we heard from another of our colleagues how words and acts uttered and done half a century ago constituting sexual harassment and extreme vulgarity still affect her to this very day. 50 years of damage by one moment of harassment. We have learned through stories told, sometimes haltingly and diffidently, but always bravely, from numerous victims of sexual harassment.
Mr. President, we will stand in a brief recess. Senate will come back to order. Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for a call of the Senate.
There has been a call of the Senate. It has been sustained. Sergeants, please lock the doors. Locate senators that are not in the chamber. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, excused. Baumgardner. Cook. Coram. Court. Crowder, excused. Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Garcia. Gardner, excused. Guzman. Hill. Holbert. John. Jones. Kagan.
Yep.
Kafalis. Kerr. Lambert. Lumberg. Marble. Martinez Huminick. Merrifield. Moreno. Neville. Priola. Scott, excused. Smallwood. Sonnenberg.
Here.
Tate. Todd. Williams. Zinzinger. Mr. President.
Senator Garcia. You going to raise the call? Senator Kagan.
Thank you. I'd like to continue with my moment of
No, we haven't finished with the call yet.
I move that the call be raised.
Call been raised. Senator Kagan.
I request permission to continue with my moment of personal privilege.
Indeed, Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we've learned through stories told, sometimes haltingly and diffidently, but always bravely, from numerous victims of sexual harassment, how their perpetrators rendered their workplace hostile, their lives fearful, and their joy during the working day cruelly robbed from them. So, we are solemnly charged as an institution to be exemplary in how we deal with allegations of sexual harassment in general, and the credible complaints against the senator from northwestern Colorado in particular. It is a solemn charge because the esteem with which the Senate is held depends on us discharging it well. The willingness of young, idealistic people to help us with our work and become the seasoned, public-spirited political leaders of tomorrow depends on us discharging it well. The confidence of the people of Colorado in the integrity and the very legitimacy of their government depends on us discharging it well. So, maybe we can agree that it is a solemn charge that is thrust upon us. But can we not also agree that it is an extraordinarily difficult charge? An extraordinarily difficult road to hoe. I say we have not yet got it right. I say this without one jot of disparagement of our leaders, for they have borne the heaviest weight and must have felt at times that they were bearing it almost alone, as we have tried to forge a path toward a fair, just, tempered, merciful, healing disposition of this most serious threat to this institution of government and to the people who work here. I feel duty-bound to say forthrightly that our institutional conduct thus far has caused grievous injury to the institution that we are privileged to nurture for such a short time and preserve intact for future generations, injury to the sense of peace we owe to the men and women who honor us by being willing to work here alongside us for the good of the people, injury to the reputation of the Senate, injury to the democratic politics and to politicians at a time when that reputation and legitimacy in full measure is all that protects us from a drift toward lawlessness and anarchy. Though we have caused grievous injury by our missteps, I say also that it is not too late to recover. The horses are restless, but they have not yet fled the barn. If we take stock of our mistakes now, if we adjust our course now, and if we act with dispatch, we can recover our institution's dignity, peace, and legitimacy. But it begins with taking stock, as I said, of our mistakes in how we have handled this. Once we appointed an investigator to look dispassionately into the matter and subsequently received a clear indication that the claims made were more likely than not truthful claims, we dithered, leaving everyone in a high state of discomfort and in some cases fear. We should not have dithered as long as we did. When we steadied ourselves, we proclaimed that the investigation was shoddy and not to be relied upon, that the accused should not have any adverse consequence imposed upon him. A voluntary step down from one function was taken as a grand gesture, generously offered, and sexual harassment sensitivity training was asked for, the very same kind of training that the accused was already required to undertake along with the rest of us. This response was no response, and the matter was declared closed. It should not have been declared closed. Indeed, in the minds of many good people, the matter was far from closed. Many remained fearful, and others, with legitimate complaints of their own, seeing how easily the first matter was deemed closed, felt frightened to give voice to their own experiences, which, members, we need to hear. So we emerged with Plan B. This said that the matter was closed, yes, unless criminal violations could be proved beyond a reasonable doubt, in which case the matter would be reopened. This Plan B only made matters worse. It suggested that acts of sexual harassment would lead to nothing unless they were also proven crimes. But we are all subject to the criminal law and its sanctions. If our standards of conduct are, as this process so far has implied, that we must merely keep it legal and we'll be fine, then we senators have no higher obligation than any other citizen, for we are all subject to the law of our state. And what precisely does keeping it legal in this context entail? It's worth asking that question, senators. Sexual harassment is not a crime. Now, there is a crime of harassment, a misdemeanor. But to be a crime, the acts of harassment must be done with the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm. Many butt slappers and thigh strokers fancy that they are merely flirting and flattering, and though they are in fact harassing and annoying and in some cases alarming their victims, try proving that they intended to do so. Yet when we say, if harassment is not criminal harassment, then it's okay, we give the green light to all the butt-slapping, embarrassment, humiliation, and disrespectful behavior that goes on in this place. It's all good, as long as the perpetrator didn't intend to harass, annoy, or alarm. If he intended to amuse, then it's fine. But we all know that it's not fine. But how about unlawful sexual contact? That is another misdemeanor which occurs when a hand is placed on a private part, even through clothes. The hitch in a criminal prosecution of such an act is that for it to be a crime, the purpose of the contact must be the person's sexual arousal, gratification, or sexual abuse. Never mind that most sexual harassment is not really sexual at all. It is about power, not sexual gratification. But under the keep it legal and you'll be fine standard, any butt slaps or nips to the bottom are permissible if they're a power play, just so long as the butt slapper can't be proved beyond a reasonable doubt to have gotten sexual thrills from it. That cannot be our standard. If it's proved beyond a reasonable doubt to have been sexual assault, then we'll act to expel, we have declared, in relation to the recent allegations, implying that if it was anything less than sexual assault, then our current inaction will stand. Well, thank God it was not sexual assault. For a person commits the felony of sexual assault if they knowingly and without consent sexually penetrate someone. That's vaginal, oral, or anal sex for sexual gratification or abuse. Or they can commit sexual assault by knowingly engaging in sexual intrusion rather than penetration without consent, for sexual gratification or abuse. Sexual intrusion, members, involves inserting an object or a finger or some part of the body other than a tongue or a penis into a person's genital or anal opening. Is that the level of behavior we have to drop to before the Senate will get involved? Of course it should not be. Those standards of merely keeping it legal are way below the standards we absolutely must maintain, and enforce in this body. And there is a way forward out of this morass. Let us freely debate whether, given the allegations that have been made, the investigation that has been conducted, the findings of credibility that have been made public, let us freely debate whether expulsion is the proper remedy. For this reason, we, the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus, ask that the Senate resolution we prepared and submitted for introduction on February the 13th, 2018, entitled Concerning the Expulsion of the Senator from Northwestern Colorado for Sexual Harassment of a Legislative Employee, be promptly introduced and brought to the floor of the Senate for debate.
Announcements. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, just to let you know, as we move into the latter half of this session, the Capitol Building Advisory Committee has been working with staff. Some of you may be aware that many of the governor's portraits from the bygone eras have been uncovered in archives. Many of them are in very bad condition. And 5 of them will be on display shortly, hopefully by today, in Committee Room 271. It's an opportunity for you to go by and look at them and see the condition that they're in, the frames and the paintings themselves. And so I would encourage you to go by and take a look at those and have a wonderful weekend.
Other announcements? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. Monday, March 19th.
Question before us is to adjourn until Monday at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We stand adjourned.